Welcome back. This is Carla Vazquez discussing local small business resources in Rochester, New York. Today, we're going to be speaking with a payroll professional, and I know every small business has payroll needs. So this will
Yes.
be a good professional for us to hear from today. If you are a small business owner and you would like to share about your payroll experiences, please do so in the comments. Today, we're welcoming Anthony Lodato from Complete Payroll. And so thank you so much, Anthony, for joining.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just think it's really useful for small business owners. They're so busy, they
Yeah.
don't have time. Many of them don't have time to go sift through internet resources to find
Right.
out what resources can relate most to their business. So, yeah, again, I appreciate you for appearing and participating.
Of
So,
course. And honestly, Carla, Google's not always the right source of information, as we know, right? So,
yeah, as we know,
yeah,
yeah.
you got to know what you're looking at.
So we're trying to help them out a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, Anthony, please share about what you do and how those services related to payroll and HR can be helpful or even essential for a small business.
Absolutely. So, as a senior rep for Complete Payroll, we're a local business that's been around for 33 years. We really try to focus on streamlining as much back office operations as we can for business owners. Because we all know business owners are great at what they do, but
Hmm.
not necessarily having the time to dedicate toward hiring, toward even the financials of the business they know. But when it comes to managers, it's hard to delegate a lot of that task to them.
Hmm.
So whether it's, payroll, timekeeping, tax compliance, that's a very big one that I work with. And I work with businesses of all sizes, whether it's one employee or
Oh,
even an owner-only payroll. Those are popular because as an owner, you still should pay yourself a salary.
that's right.
Right? So that's a common misconception, whether I own a business, should I put myself on payroll? And the answer is always yes. You should review those things with your CPA. But I always recommend it because if you go for a business loan or a home loan, you need to prove your income.
So even if they're a sole proprietor, they should put themselves on payroll.
You definitely can. It's not always required. It really depends. Because like if you're an S corp owner, you
Hmm.
have to put yourself on payroll and pay yourself a reasonable salary.
Okay.
That's a common thing too that I run into a lot. But we have clients with 3,000 employees all the way down to one employee
Okay.
and everything in between. So obviously, small business is the core of what we do. And we do have clients all throughout the United States. So we're not just local in New York State.
Okay. All right.
But obviously, automation's huge, right? I run into businesses that track timekeeping often manually, right? Or somebody's submitting a paper timesheet. Do business owners have time to really shift through all that stuff? And whereas our timekeeping solution really just filters all into payroll automatically,
Okay. All right.
right? And we're very big on relationships. At Complete Payroll, I have a background in banking over 10 years.
Mhm.
So relationships is really the core of what we believe in. And consultative, our initial meetings with our prospects, I should say, are very consultative and educational, right? So
And
it's
that's
not
one
that
thing I
sales.
appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate that you take the time to educate small business owners because, like you said, they may not have time to be aware of the regulations and compliance issues around payroll and HR. Yeah.
And there's so many in New York State, Carla. I mean, there's a lot of compliance regulations that business owners have to be aware of, right? Common ones that I run into a lot are the New York State mandatory sick leave.
Mm.
Also the prenatal leave that's out there that changed as of January 1st, where the business has to offer 20 hours of paid prenatal care to their
Oh, yeah.
employees.
Yeah.
Even things like labor law posters, um, time off, there's a lot out there when it comes to compliance for a business.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that you can handle businesses with only one employee because
Hmm.
I know it comes up a lot with me because I often deal with,
Yeah,
those small business owners. So that's good
absolutely.
to know. Yeah. And, I know that a lot of times those missteps or mistakes or just not being aware of certain compliance issues can be very costly for a
Hmm.
small business owner. So, can you talk about some mistakes and missteps that a person like yourself can help a small business owner avoid and keep them from facing maybe large financial penalties?
Absolutely. I think the biggest one that I run into lately is misclassifying employees versus 1099 contractors.
Oh,
That is a very important aspect of your business, right? Because New York State does what's called a control test
mm,
while determining a 1099 versus a W-2. I'm not a fan of the word control because you should never control your employees,
right,
right? But it's basically, are you controlling their schedule? Are you offering them benefits? There is rules in place, and that's what we focus on in our initial meetings. How are you paying your staff? Is it W-2? Is it 1099? Because that obviously affects your workers' comp as well.
okay,
1099 contractors, they pay their own taxes. We can still run a 1099 through payroll. We do it all the time. There's just different withholding guidelines when it comes to that. So my biggest advice to a business owner is really focus on W-2 versus 1099. There's a lot of there's not a lot of guidance out there when it comes to that. And frankly, there's some gray area when you're determining these guidelines for 1099s versus W-2s.
right,
But we really try to focus on that when I initially meet with someone. Can we pay them W-2 versus 1099? So I think that's a really big one for sure. Even missing tax deadlines or filings, there's times I'll talk to a business owner and they're running payroll themselves.
yeah,
And, a lot of the time we might have to go back and help them with, taxes that weren't filed or even filed incorrectly. We've ran into that quite a bit actually. And that's even if you don't run your payroll yourself, that's from other payroll companies sometimes as well. So I would say the other big one is not tracking time accurately. Again, if we're using paper timesheets or, how are you, especially if you have a remote employee too, Carla, like if
mm,
you're not sure what their schedule is or if they're actually working when they should be, that's a common misconception too. There's a lot of guidance out there when it comes to time tracking. It should all be automated,
okay.
in my opinion.
Okay, and can you talk about some of the penalties that they could face? I know in the past, I've heard you talk about some type of penalty per employee
Mhm.
for certain mistakes. So if you
Yeah.
could explain more around that.
Yeah, so the misclassification of the employees versus the contractors, the fines are pretty hefty. I don't have the figure in front of me, but they're pretty hefty. Because again, even if you're not paying manual workers in New York State weekly, that's another big one that I run
Okay,
into.
yeah, yeah,
If you're considered manual labor in New York State, you must be paid weekly. So oftentimes business owners are looking to save, a little bit on payroll processing.
mm,
Weekly is usually the more expensive pay frequency when it
yeah,
comes to payroll,
okay,
right? Versus biweekly. So it's kind of an uncomfortable conversation sometimes, frankly, when I have to educate them that they're maybe not paying them the way they should be.
yeah, yeah.
That does happen quite a bit. But the fines, the Department of Labor can issue some hefty fines for that stuff.
Okay. And then you also help with businesses who don't have employee handbooks, right? Which is
Yes.
also, I believe, a requirement in New York State, or it should be.
Yes,
But it's very important for small business owners. How
absolutely.
can you maybe maintain requirements for the workplace if you don't have them written somewhere or documented for the employee?
Exactly. So how can you effectively coach your staff without proper procedure in place, right? So our solution through Mineral HR, there's actually a free handbook wizard that helps you create a customized handbook. It is customizable to the state that you're operating in,
Ah,
whether it's New York, it's Texas, wherever state that you're operating in, and it is New York State compliant,
okay.
or state compliant rather.
Right.
So, again, it also updates. So anytime there's a labor law change, the system will tell you that there's a change, and all you have to do is accept the change
Oh,
and re-download your handbook.
yeah. Well, that is
So it's,
convenient. Yeah.
yes, very nice solution for sure.
Yeah, I know you talked a lot about how you can save customers money and then also
Mhm.
give them automation options, which of
Yes,
course will save them time, which of course is money. So yeah, appreciate
absolutely.
that. So Anthony, is there anything else you'd like to share about your services?
Let's see. I know we talked about common mistakes, right?
Right. We end each video with a segment where the professional shares 3 tips
Mhm.
for business owners. So what would your 3 takeaway tips be for around payroll and HR for small business owners?
Yep. I would say, payroll is definitely more than just cutting checks. I think that's what most people relate to payroll is like, hey, I just got to get my people paid. But
Hmm.
again, there's taxes, there's benefits that are involved. And mistakes there can definitely damage morale or even again trigger costly penalties. So I would recommend, working with a company that specializes in service anytime you need something is invaluable,
Yeah,
right? So partner with a provider who proactively monitors those deadlines, handles those filings accurately, and supports you when those rules change from a compliance standpoint.
right.
Also, your people system should grow with you. So this is a common one too. Oftentimes, businesses are starting out with 1, 2 employees, and they experience a big growth period in their business, and they have to hire maybe 20 to 50 employees.
Right.
We love growth.
Hmm.
Our systems are scalable. I love to say that it's scalable solution. As you continue to grow, we can grow with you, right? So whether it's on things like onboarding and offboarding, recruiting, benefits administration, expense management, there's performance modules that we offer also. So whether you need those things today,
Hmm.
you might need them in the future.
Right.
So it's definitely a scalable solution.
Okay.
And I would say the other big one for me, because we do not broker insurance at Complete Payroll, but we
Hmm.
have all the integrations in our software to facilitate the reporting.
Okay.
Knowing the difference between a direct bill versus a pay-as-you-go workers' compensation policy. Because oftentimes, for a business owner, when they're just starting out, that is one of the biggest expenses for a business is workers' comp.
Yeah. And it's complicated too. A lot
Very
of details
complicated,
around.
yes.
Yeah.
Direct bill is where you have to estimate your payroll for the year. Oftentimes, you have to pay a 20% premium upfront to get the policy in effect. And then you have to estimate your payroll, like I said. And if you underestimate your payroll, you would owe a balloon payment at the end of the year,
Wow.
right? So pay as you go works totally opposite than that. We actually put the class codes of the policy in our payroll software, tie it to the employee records, and we send an upload file to the insurance carrier each payroll cycle, and we report real-time payroll wages.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's no surprises. You still get audited. That's another common misconception, Carla. You still get audited for pay-as-you-go workers' comp.
So
It's
you'll
just,
get audited no matter what. Sounds
yes,
like.
but you're not going to owe a balloon payment because you've paid your premiums based on what you actually owe for the year.
Okay. All
It's an
right.
excellent cash management tool for a business, right? Because like it's nice to know exactly what I'm paying
Yes.
versus having to estimate what I'm going to pay at the end of the year.
Right. Right.
So I can't emphasize that enough. And in New York State, your workers' comp, your rates are based on LCM, loss cost multiplier.
Okay. And what is that?
So each subcarrier, so let's just use Hartford, for example. Hartford has various subcarriers under their umbrella,
Hmm.
and each subcarrier might specialize in different class codes, if you will, and all the rates are different for that subcarrier. So
Okay.
it's important to know a good agent. We work with various of them. We love insurance agents, especially the independent ones, who
Yes.
can clearly explain this to a client because it's important, right? If you're with a subcarrier that has a very high LCM, your premium's going to be very costly.
And workers' comp, it's costly anyway. So then,
Yes,
yeah, it's even more costly then. Yeah.
exactly. So it's very important to know the difference between direct bill versus pay as you go. Direct Bill has it is a good platform if your payroll is very consistent and it
Hmm.
doesn't change,
Okay.
right? Because then you can estimate it and you know exactly what it's likely going to be.
Okay.
But for seasonal business or people that have a lot of turnover,
Yes.
pay as you go is really a good option for you.
Okay. All right.
Those are 3 of my best recommendations.
Well, thanks for your tips, Anthony, and thanks for taking the time today once
Of
again.
course.
And if you would like to reach out to Anthony, Anthony's contact information will be in the comments. So this will bring the series Local Small Business Resources, Rochester, New York, to an end. And I hope this series has given you practical tools and helpful insights for you to consider, along with information that you may have on your own to determine the best resources for your small business. Many thanks to the local professionals who have stepped up and shared their expertise, like Anthony has done here for us today. And please remember to check out the resources, additional resources in the description box for each video in the series. Thank you for watching. I'm Carla Vazquez. It's been my pleasure to support you through local small business resources, Rochester, New York, real advice, local professionals to help you with your small business success.